Rico No Suave show. We are bringing you a fun-filled show tonight with a great guest. So get ready, mi gente. Now, here is your talk show host, Rico No Suave. Dale.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Rico No Suave. Welcome back. I am super happy to be back with each and every one of you guys, man. Oh, man. Y'all always say it every week. I miss you, and I hope you miss me, because we always miss each other, because we always have a good time on the show, everybody. That's what we do. So welcome back. And, you know, one of the things is, everybody, I went to go and grab some sunshine. And when I went to go and grab some sunshine, I went to Arizona. So I was the MC for a big award ceremony in Chandler International Film Festival, and big shout out to them. So we're going to pull up this first one, right? We're going to pull up this first one. This is Matesh and me on the red carpet. And basically, you know, I want to say thank you to Matesh. And we also gifted him with a shirt as well, too, because he looked at us as, wow, you guys are amazing on the red carpet. And we basically, you know, put a nice little staple out there for people to know that the Rico No Suave show is real. We love what we do. And, you know, everyone was just, you know, giving us really great feedback as far as while we were there. But we want to thank Matesh Patel. But where it came into play, everybody, was the big award ceremony that I actually did alongside with this next gentleman. This next gentleman is Brad Perry. Brad Perry, that was kind of like our outside of our green room. But at the same time, too, it was, you know, it was amazing to be able to talk to Brad Perry. Now, he also is a TV talk show host in Arizona for Good Morning Arizona. So, and one of the people that, you know, announced him said, Good Morning America. I'm like, you on Good Morning America? He's like, no, I'm on Good Morning Arizona. I said, well, Good Morning America does sound good. So it was awesome to be able to share the stage as far as with him when we were actually presenting a lot of the presenters as well as some of the winners as well too. So it was great to meet Brad Perry, another guy, and I, you know, me and him was just going over our lines and everything, and it was super cool to be able to feel like we're going to be on that big stage. So last but not least, you know, we all did a group picture at the end, and it was everybody that was actually supporting, but also you can see some of them actually had some awards to all of the winners from the awards, and also some of the people that was from the cast from films, as well as some of the staff. You can see Matesh right there in the back area. So I really had a great time. I had a really, really great time at Chandler International Film Festival, and we should all wish them congratulations on their 10th year anniversary. It was an amazing, amazing time as far as with them, and it was awesome, man. So congratulations. All right, everybody, it's time to introduce this gentleman. Today, everybody, we get deep. But we get deep in a good way, because there's awareness that we love to always bring to you with great people that can actually help us understand a little bit more when it comes to certain diseases or certain things that we have to be worried about, which is our health. And worried about our health is a good thing, because this gentleman, he's going to be awesome as well too. So I want you guys to put your hands together for the diabetes and wellness advocate. He is also an author as well too. I want you guys to put your hands together for none other than my man, Mark Brezzell. Let's go. How you doing, Mark? Are you there?
I'm here.
Yes,
How you
sir.
doing, sir?
Yes, sir. Welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the show.
Glad to
Good
be here.
See you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hey, so before we get started, man, before we get this party started, for people to be able to say, hey, let's get it on, do you have any shout outs you want to give out to anybody out there?
Well, obviously, you know, I like to, you know, first of all, start off and I always give my wife a shout out. You know,
All right.
She's the better half. She's the foundation, and she's the one I lean on at all times. But I also want to shout out to my team.
Okay.
You know, that's helping
Shout out.
that works endlessly behind the scenes. You know, Antoinette Hughes, Venona Williams, and Sabrina Brezzell, who's my niece. It's all family.
Yeah.
I have two nieces and a cousin,
All
and
right.
so we said we go do this together. And so I want to give them their praise because
What's your wife's
they're
name again?
awesome. What's that?
Your wife's name.
Cleo.
Cleo.
Cleo
All
Brezzell.
right, Cleo.
Yeah.
Keep
A
that foundation going.
Yeah, a former HBCU-ite down
Let's
in
go.
Huntsville. Yeah, yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go. Let's go. Congratulations. All right, let's get it on, man. We got a lot. We got a
Yes,
lot
sir.
to talk about today. I'm super happy once again to have you and everybody. We're going to paint this picture for you. You know, there's things that we are always aware of when it comes to health, but that's why we had a strategist here, and we also have someone that has a background in regards to in the medical field. So, Mr. Mark, talk to us in regards to your background when it comes to being in a medical field and some of the things that you actually learned being in the medical field in order for you to be able to start being that kind of that advocate.
Well, first of all, I'm clinically trained as a clinical cardiovascular perfusionist. It's a clinical specialist role. I was part of the open heart surgical team and I worked 10 years in Toledo, Ohio, at Toledo Hospital in surgery. Worked with heart, basically left heart support, heart assist support we call it, blood conservation, which involved in a lot of stuff there. I graduated from Johns Hopkins. I have the privilege of being their first. This is Black History Month, so I was their first African American to graduate from the program. I had a great deal of pride there. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to interface with some tremendous movers and shakers in their field. Dr. Ben Carson was still in practice there, as well as Dr. Levi Watkins, who was the first and one of the few Black cardiac surgeons on faculty there. And he was the first surgeon to put a cardiac defibrillator into a human. So the history is rich, the experience was rich, and that's something that I'll have to give a call out for, particularly on Black History Month, with the opportunity that I had there. I later transitioned into industry, worked within medical affairs across various companies in both biotechnology as well as medical device. My last position was with a medical device company. We were actually developing interventional devices for blockages in the vessels. But I was working on a carotid stent, which opens up blood vessels going up into the brain to prevent stroke, and also in the lower limbs as well, to open up vessels in the lower limbs. So that also opened up the door for me, have a little bit more experience in educating people on peripheral arterial disease, which is a major complication or a big complication for patients with diabetes. A lot of us, a lot of people have had amputations of the lower limbs or even the foot, because of that. And we have, I've learned, and it was really good to know that there are so many options that I always tell people all the time, if amputation is the first recommendation, then go seek a second opinion.
Now, I do have a question for you, Mark,
Yes.
in regards to that, because when we talk about the human anatomy and when we do talk about like the heart and we talk about the arteries, we also talk about, you said, the vessels. And when you're learning this or actually studying as well to know how strokes actually happen and how to prevent strokes actually happening, what was going through your mind when you actually, it's almost like you're troubleshooting a human body, right? In regards to saying, well, if there's blockage here, how do we open this up to make sure that this person doesn't have a stroke again? And then you start saying, well, there's certain devices and things like that to be able to help that. What was it like when you first found out how to basically, I wouldn't say it's like a cure, but it's like a fix, in order for, this person to say, hey, now I think we have you set now, so hopefully you wouldn't have to go, through this situation again?
I think what stands out to me, to be honest with you, particularly interventional medicine. See, for me, my role, with cardiac surgery, you have three, we call them the three heads. You have the cardiac surgeon, you have the cardiac anesthesiologist, and then you have the cardiac perfusionist. Now, for the perfusionist role, which was my role, basically, we have to stop the heart from pumping so the surgeon can operate. So the anesthesia will shut off we basically give them medicine, will flatline the patient. So the heart is completely turned off. And
Wow.
that's where my role comes in, where we have a machine that's hooked up to the patient. So the patient is able to be, we able to keep the blood flow going, keep, to the brain and to the lower part of the body
Right.
while the heart is stopped. And then the anesthesiologist is able to cut off the ventilator. And so basically the total, that patient is being totally supported. Now, to answer your question, I think what's amazing to me, first of all, it's amazing enough to have the technology to work around these blockages. That's, one, but I think what stood out to me, not so much then, but even more so now, is the fact that our lifestyle changes can, it's nice that we're able to go in and manipulate and prolong life expectancy.
Right.
But the challenge comes with you as a patient to
Right.
live a lifestyle that prevents all of those things from occurring and reduces the risk of coming back again. And I think that to me, that stands out more than anything.
I like that. I like that. I like that. Let's go, Mark. Okay,
Yeah.
because I think what happens is that being able to have that definition and knowing what's happening, sometimes people don't learn the way that you've learned, right?
Right.
Because they haven't had that opportunity to do so. Sometimes it's just by studying and then hopefully that they have the opportunity to be able to do that, or they might see it on a video, right?
Right.
Or they might just have, they might have a teacher or professor just talking about it, but they might not be able to have that real life opportunity to be in front of a patient to see how that all works, which goes to my next part. When it comes to you as a person that actually witnessed when we're talking about diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's talk about you as the diabetic, being an advocate, and then having that awareness, because that comes into play in regards to how you know about your body and
Mm-hmm.
what you went through in order
Right.
for you be able to tell someone else, okay, here's what you need to be aware of, right, when it's happening.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that first.
Well, the awareness piece actually is very interesting because prior to being diagnosed with diabetes, a year prior to that, I remember we were talking with some colleagues there at the hospital, and one of the anesthesiologists was looking to develop a protocol or some sort of algorithm for patients that are diabetic, patients undergoing heart surgery, and we're trying to figure out, okay, what can we do to increase, their numbers. What can we do to increase outcomes and their healing and all that kind of stuff? Is what can we do from
Yeah.
from a clinical perspective? And I think what stands out to me, the following year, literally 1 year later, I had just gotten married, early part of the year, and within a few months of my marriage, I started exhibiting these weird symptoms.
Mhm.
I started to lose weight. That started almost immediately, but that was a very slow progression at that particular time. I started having all this, this desire from drinking really sugary drinks, and I'm like, this is interesting. And I remember one time I was home from the hospital, and I jumped up and answered the phone, and it was like somebody was shining a flashlight in my eyes, and I'm thinking to myself, now the year before, we working on diabetes. These things are happening to me. I know about diabetes, but
Right.
in my mind, that can't be what I'm dealing with.
Right.
It's something else. It's something else. It
Yeah.
can't be that. But it wasn't until the last progression of it when became very clear to me what was going on. And I remember I went to a drugstore and I bought me an over the counter test. I was coming back from work and had to run to the restroom, and I just left the restroom there. I'm thinking, haven't been drinking. What's going on?
Yeah.
And I went in, took bought one of those tests. It came up positive. I was floored.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
completely floored. So when you're talking about advocacy, my purpose is not only just to teach education. What is diabetes? Because you hear about diabetes. Well,
Sure.
what is it? But also to help people understand what are the symptoms of it. And if you see things, I think that the moral of all of this is, if something's not right, get it checked out. Don't
Yes.
second guess. Don't try to figure out or diagnose yourself. Go get it looked at. And because I'd rather them say, it's nothing wrong with you than for them to say, I wish you had come 2 years ago or 1 year or 6 months sooner. We can do more for you. So that's the advocacy piece. I want people to understand that diabetes can hit anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your demographic.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your pay grade. It don't matter.
Yeah, you're right.
It don't matter who you are.
Right.
In fact, what's interesting to me is that if you think about the countries that are number 1 and number 2 in diabetes, people would say, well, everybody assumes it's the United States because we see a lot of diabetes here, but that's not the case. This is a global issue. China now has overtaken on a global stage as a country, as a nation with the most, continent with the most diabetes. So I think that, the advocacy point and awareness point is to let people know that you can get diabetes at any stage in your life.
Yeah.
That is not, and help to clear out and clarify some of the misinformation, because with social media, everybody's a talking head, but you don't know who these people are,
Right.
Everybody has an opinion on something, but do they really know, the nitty-gritty of what's going on? And so I try to help people understand, remove some of the stigmas around diabetes, try to clarify, to educate people on diabetes, because there's a difference between type 1, type 2, and that sort of thing, and help people understand what the symptoms are, what they can be looking for, not only for a personal standpoint, but you may have friends. I'm sure it's like 3 degrees of separation. Mm-hmm. Everybody, you could ask them, do you know anybody with diabetes? Somebody will say, my uncle, my father, my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, we know somebody. It touches so many people now. Right. And so I want people to understand that it's more than just dealing with you as a patient, but also the caregivers.
I like that. One of the questions that, hey, Christian Ruiz is checking in, John T for free, Donna Marie Bird, and some other people are checking in as well too. Thank you guys so much. But we do have a question. This is a really good question, because when we talk about the heart, right, the heart piece, and I kind of brought that up in regards to like the arteries, but also this has to do with as far as the functionality of you when in your work, lard or oil. Now, of course, when we talk about lard and we're also talking about oil, which one is good for the heart? Which one do you now? Because the oil can go into different areas, and lard is just lard, right?
Lard is fat,
right?
And fat is not good,
right.
Oil is it depends on the type of oil. Right. There's different types of oil. You have saturated, polysaturated. You have, it depends on the chain. I'm not going to get technical into that, but I'm just saying if you want to take an oil. The oil that is recommended by the American Diabetic Association and many of the medical associations is olive oil. If you can get pure virgin olive oil, and I know that the olive oil here in the United States may not be as pure, but it's still a better alternative to some of the other the oils that are out there. So oil is a good thing, but it depends on the type of oil that you had mentioned.
Yeah, that's all I cook in. I cook in nothing but olive oil and extra virgin olive oil.
Yes.
It also makes the food taste good too, right?
Yes, it does.
And I love my Italianos. I love my Italianos too, Mark.
That's
I love
my
Italiano,
That's right. See, so many times when you think about diabetes, they call it a cardiometabolic condition because again, when we're talking about the vasculature, you have the process of forming and generating these injuries in the vessels, which leads to these blockages. And a lot of this is inflammation can cause injury. And then, they basically, if the vessels are damaged, the internal parts of the vessels become damaged, then they'll have a little bit of inflammation where now they start to cluster as their body's immune system starts to, respond to that. And that's where that's the etiology of a lot of this arthromatous formation of plaque. So that's why it's so important what you eat, and that's why it's so important how to make sure that you try to do what you can to reduce the risk, because diabetes that's why the relationship is so strong with people with diabetes and people with cardiovascular conditions. And it's from the head to the toe. So if in the head, it's a stroke.
Yep.
In the heart, it's it's a myocardial infarction. And in the legs, it's peripheral arterial disease and blockages, and so it's the same process, just in different locations. So I try to help people understand that, it's the same thing. A heart, if it happens in the heart, it's a heart attack, or myocardial infarction. If it happens in the brain, it's a stroke. So these things can occur, and a lot of times it's accelerated, and that's what we call our diabetes. This is accelerant in sometimes the formation of these processes. If you aren't, being proactive and trying to, take care of yourself by what you eat, by being active, by following some, critical health principles.
I like that. Thank you. Tommy Summerhill's checking in. Tommy Toon Summerhill, thank you so much for checking in with us as well too. That's another person that really likes to eat well as well. He's really good in regards to, eating fruits, and he's always sending me some really great tips in regards to, fruits and berries and really
I have to meet him.
foods. Huh?
I said, that's somebody I like to meet.
Yes, sir. I'll connect you both.
That's right.
Definitely, he's a really good person. Tommy Toons. Yolanda Lopez says, yes, olive oil and coconut oil. I mean, for the Caribbean, of course, that coconut oil is really good.
That's right.
I think it is some really good oil out there as well, too. Time is not on our side because we almost hit the halfway mark. You know what I mean? So it's like it's crazy how we can have so much information, and we only touch the surface of just that part. As far as the awareness and of course your background as well, and also you being of course an advocate for diabetes. Let's talk a little bit about stress, because stress happens for us entrepreneurs as well as people that's in kind of that high chaos environments as well too. People that also just worry just to worry, right? Because they always think, like, I always talk about my mom on that. I love my mama, but she tends to worry about family, right? And I think what happens is, being at her age, when it tends to stress you out, you kind of, when you stress out early, you kind of look older at a younger age. And I tend to see that with certain people, and like, man, what you almost like me, like my age, and you look older than me. And I'm like, wow, what's going on? Oh man, I've been so stressed out and things like that. Let's talk through, Mark, in regards to how that silently kills your body when it comes to stress. Let's talk about that.
Well, many times, there's good stress and then there's bad stress. So stress in and of itself is not a bad thing, but there's the bad stress is really bad for you. Basically, stress puts your body. There's a system in it. I don't want to get, this is not a science class, but I'm just going to talk in generally now. The fight and flight syndrome. Basically, your body is saying that, if you're if a dog comes after you, or you see a dog pop out of your body's going to react. What am I going to do here? And it's going to be like either take off or fight.
Right.
But one of those, occurrences is going to occur. And in the process of doing that, then you have various biochemicals that are being emitted, by the adrenal glands and by other glands to put your body into that state of reactivity. Well, the problem with stress is that you may not be necessarily in a situation where you have to evade or you have to fight. But because your body is in such an excitable state, and now these chemicals are being released into your body as though you need to react in this sort of way. Over time, that wears your system down. Over time, that causes vascular injury. Over time, that causes injuries, internal problems. And in fact, it's kind of interesting for people that have really poor lifestyle habits. I've seen this personally. I remember we had patients that would come into the OR, and some of these patients they may be 30 or 40 or 50 years old, but physiologically, their body actually looks 20, 30 years older. And how you look on the outside, you look even older on the inside.
Yes,
It
sir.
just and so I always now focus on the vascular impact of stress, because a lot of people for the longest they look to stress as a state of mind or mental health situation. But no, it's just physical. It's probably more physical than it is mental.
Yeah.
And over time, you can't continue to flush a system with these particular biochemicals and not have some sort of recourse, not have some sort of detriment as a result of that. So it's important for you to find ways to kind of relax yourself, and kind of that we call it, go for a walk, exercise, even certain diets that you eat to help prep yourself and make your body more resistant to some of the damages that can be attained from in a very stressful situation. But the main thing is you have to find something to reduce that stress. The term stress kills is true and is very accurate.
So, Mark, I was going to talk to you in regards to the solution, but you actually answered the
Oh,
solution already, right?
I'm,
Because I know we kind of talked about the heart piece and what's good for the heart, but also you kind of went through the whole science piece of that. But you also kind of gave us a synopsis of, or the answer of things that you should do
that's
with
right.
exercising, which is good, and eating,
Mhm,
eating the right foods.
mhm.
What from Mark's life and journey, how does Mark manage his stress level?
I do a lot of reading. Um, I try to find things that are of interest to me. There's YouTube videos that I sometimes listen to that I find very intriguing, and I'll sit there. And, if I get on the treadmill, or if I'm just home, if I'm on my couch or in my bed, there's certain things that I like to watch. I love trains and I love planes. And
And automobiles?
I watch shows on YouTube that maybe talk. These are just things that I like to do, and it takes my mind away from, the rigors
Yeah,
of trying to make a living, the rigors of trying to survive, the rigors of even trying to manage my own condition, which is type 1 diabetes.
yeah,
And so I think that we have to take a time out in whatever our daily retinue, whatever our daily routine is, and refocus. And I
yeah,
think that's probably the biggest thing. And that's what I try to do. I can't, I got to take the foot off the gas, because if you think about it, in any situation, if you have a car and you just racing the engine, anything will break down with excessive use.
right.
And so I try my best to help people to understand that you've got to take the foot off the gas. Whatever you may enjoy, if it's painting, if it's yoga, if it's fishing, if it's biking. I like to ride bikes as well. And this summer I plan on really getting my bike back out and really getting out there in the fresh air and the breeze. I just love that sort of thing. But
Yeah,
these are things that you can do, and there's foods that you can eat as well that will help your body. They call adaptogens. It will help your body be more resistant to some
yeah,
of these, stressors that we're exposed to, because we live in a very stressful world.
we do.
And if we don't, and that's why you can't sit and watch, if you online or on social media, you can't sit and continue. You can't work all day. And you get on social media at night, worrying about talking about stuff that will upset you, frustrate you, or make you
Yes.
mad. That's not helping. Disconnect and
Right.
and call the timeout and
Yes, sir.
refocus.
I
I
like
think
that.
that that's the kind of, and that's what I try to do. I try to not because there are times where I'll dibble into some things going on politically or some other areas. I'm thinking, this is this, and I have to turn it off.
I
Yeah,
hear you.
refocus.
I love it, Mark. I love it, man. I love that you're here, man. We're at the halfway minute mark. Hey,
Yeah.
Mark. We have, we're when we come, we're gonna have a commercial break. But when we come
Okay.
back to this commercial break, we got a clip that we're gonna show of you, in regards that you sent me, of course, in regards to a little bit about your life, and we want to show the audience that as well, because it's a clip, of course, by you, and it has your book on there, because we want to make sure we show everybody that you're an author, of course, which we're going to
Yes.
talk to next. When we do come back, I do want also there's a couple questions that we would like for you to answer as well too. All right.
All
All
right.
right, let's get it on, everybody. It's my man, Mark Brezzell. Yes, diabetes and wellness advocate and also author. You're here on the Rico No Suave show, everybody. We'll be back about 30 seconds. Let's go. Dolly.
Every year, 800,000 children are reported missing. That's one child every 40 seconds. It's every parent's worst nightmare. Right now, there are 483 missing children cases still open. Your card donation can help keep kids safe and bring missing kids home. Donate your unwanted card today. Fast, free pickup, 24-hour response. Plus, you'll get the maximum tax deduction.
Call 800-723-2013.
My name is Mark Brezzell, and I am diabetic, and I've been one for quite a few years actually now. I consider myself a self-proclaimed perfusionist patient. That's right, I'm a former clinician. I spent 10 years in cardiac surgery prior to transitioning into industry. And what I found rather unique when I got married, within a few months into my marriage, I started to notice some things that were a little bizarre. I noticed that I was had pretty consistent weight for the most part, pretty proportional. And I noticed that my clothes started to get a little bit larger. And I just attributed it to my activity level because I was very active. I love biking. And I would, every summer I was always out on my bike every single day. So I attribute to that as the reason for my weight loss, but it just continued. And another thing I noticed was I had an insatiable desire for sugary drinks. I used to drink pop and soda pop quite a bit, and just drink it like water. Very unexpected. I had a sweet tooth, but nothing like that. And it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. But what I found interesting in all of this is that as I continued to lose weight, as I continued to consume these sugary drinks, then these symptoms continue to manifest themselves. I reached a point where I started having frequent urination as a result of that. So when you see that your weight, you're having unexplained weight loss, then you start going through these classic symptoms. Me, as a former clinician, I knew, or actually at that time I was actually still in the hospital, I knew something wasn't right. And so as a result of that, I went to the drugstore, got me a glucose test, one of those over-the-counter glucose tests, and I tested myself, and I came back positive. And so I went to my healthcare practitioner, who confirmed that diagnosis, that indeed I was a diabetic. This was a shocker for me because I thought I had always had a healthy lifestyle. I always watched what I eat. I didn't eat a lot of sweets at that time, but we realized that eating sweets is not necessarily an indicator for that. There's a lot of other.
Mark, you still
Yes,
with
sir.
me? Hey, I really like what I really like about that video, because number one, I did want the world to see your book, right? And I really love the cover of that book because it shows about fruit. And I was just, thinking to myself, I love fruit. I love grapes. I love bananas. I love strawberries. I love the fruit piece. And I know, eating too much of it, right, is a lot of sugar as well. But it's so good. It's like a substitute for candy that sounds good as fruit, but you still can't eat too much of it,
But the interesting thing about that is, yes, fruit has sugars.
Yeah.
Fruit has sugars, no doubt about that. But the difference between sugars and fruit versus sugars that have been processed is, you have other cofactors that nullify and modifies effects. So basically, people say, well, is it okay to eat apple pie in place of an apple? No, an apple has Apple has fiber. Apple has other components in it that muffles, and it has outside of other benefits that you sidestep a little bit, but and it doesn't spike your sugar because of the fiber in the app. So I'm just saying the difference between something natural, even though it may be sugar, versus something that is not, that's processed, where a lot of that stuff is stripped away, and now your body only sees one component of it, and that's why your sugar has a tendency to spike.
Yeah, I like that. I like the apple pie. I'm like, what about blueberry pie? Right? I like that might be good too. Well, not necessarily, but we got to get to these questions. Thank you guys so much for actually tuning in. You already know I'm here with my man Mark Brezzell, and diabetes and wellness advocate and author. He also strategics as well too when it comes to health and wellness. So I'm so happy that he's actually here with us. So Donna Marie Bird, here's the first question. Because we did talk about bad stress, right? We kind of talked about what bad stress was. In your eyes, what do you think is good stress?
I think good stress is actually like exercise. I mean, your body is impacted. And if you're in there, if you're out riding a bike and your heart rate is pumping and you're having these cardiovascular effects, your body, your system is being stressed, but it's not being broken down. It's being enriched. It's being strengthened. So when I think of good stress, I think of stress where it helps kind of push you past boundaries. Sometimes it helps growth of muscle, helps growth of cardiovascular tissue. So I'm just saying that these are some of the good stressors that you have, that's necessary. Because even the normal wear and tear, people don't take it in consideration. It's interesting. I was talking to one group of individuals, and I was saying one of the challenges of withdrawal is it exposes that barriers that are muffled when your body is working, synergistically. Basically what I'm saying is, if you take a substance and it reduces the amount of endorphins or some other components that help blunt, just regular wear and tear of daily life. And so these people, you start feeling a muscle twitch. You start feeling an expansion of a muscle. You start feeling the little normal things that you don't normally feel because it's bathed by these chemicals. But when they're stripped away, everything, it becomes an issue. And that's why they're sick. And because of their body has been exposed, and now you life itself, breathing, the diaphragm expansion, all that you feel, and it goes from being a good thing to a bad thing.
I love it that you said exercise because I like to dance. That's a good stress as well.
That's right.
Sometimes when you dance and you don't realize the time, what's going on with the time, because you'll wind up dancing.
That's right.
For 3 hours and you really know it, and like, oh my God, I just sweat. I just burned like 500 calories, baby.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. It's like that when if I get on the treadmill and I'm watching something I'm really into. You can walk all day.
You can walk all day. You'll feel it afterward. You're like, why are my legs so tight?
That's right. That's right.
No, I like that. Hopefully that answers your question, Donna Marie Bird. We got my man Ron Holloway checking in. He says, do you limit red meat intake?
Well, for me, yes, because I limit all meat intake. I'm a vegetarian.
Okay.
So, I've years, I've reduced the intake of, I was raised a vegetarian. I did dibble and dabble, but I decided that a vegetarian lifestyle is what I wanted to pursue. What's interesting to me, a lot of times, we have all these discussions going back and forth regarding to eat or not to eat. But I remember when I was in school and in Baltimore, a buddy of mine that I used to do research with here at U of M, I bumped into him and we were talking and we said, let's hook up. And he came, up to the hospital when I was, there and we were eating in the cafeteria and he had a couple of friends with him. But I just met them, but I didn't know what they did. And one of the guys looked at me and said, you don't eat meat. You're a vegetarian? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a vegetarian. I said, Why are you looking at my plate? No, just but come to find out that they were USDA health inspectors, meat inspectors. And he was telling me, yeah, because I was noticing their plate. I'm thinking, hey, you don't eat meat either. and he said, oh, no. I'm these guys, he said they were, not only were they vegetarian, but their families were very vegetarian, and their next in kin. I mean, he said that they convinced practically their whole sphere of influence. And because he said, we see this stuff. And as to me, when I think of smoking gun, that was more, that was a cannon.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm saying when you have guys that, and in fact, and this is what he said that blew me away. He basically told me, he said, listen, it's over 96% of all USDA health inspectors have turned away from eating the things that we inspect. And when you've got experts that see the stuff, and they have, I'm not a guy that second guesses stuff.
Sure.
If you don't do it,
I'm not going to.
and this is your line of work. Some not adding up here.
Right. Especially when you're watching the experts, though, too, right? Yes. And then, I think for myself, when we start thinking, I mean, I love meat, but I stay away from pork, but I'll dabble into red meat here and there. And then I'll
everything
eat
in moderation.
Chicken
is
and
good
fish.
For you. You get certain minerals, vitamins. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think from that standpoint, because I love to cook, right? So I think and also, one of the things that I've learned as well, and big shout out to John T for free. He knows about this as well too. That as a part-time chef in cooking, you learn different spices as well. Now, speaking of spices, I want to ask you this, because I'm sure you don't even have to be a vegetarian to understand the spices. Are there certain spices that's good for you when it comes to you eating,
absolutely,
food?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm thinking about turmeric. Turmeric is extremely good for you. It's a potent anti inflammation agent. The most of the diseases in our bodies are basically caused by inflammation. A lot of foods that we eat put our body in an inflammatory state. In fact, a lot of these lesions in your vessels that lead to cardiovascular challenges, or vascular challenges, I should say, is because of inflammation. They can erode, and damage the vessel walls. And, when you think about, again, the whole science of this thing, the vessels are so smooth. If there's any anomaly in that, then that causes the flow to be broken. And that's where now the body starts to recognize something ain't right. And then the immune system reacts to that. And that's where a lot of the etiology of a lot of these plaques that, can occur. But yes, you have, cinnamon is really good for blood sugar, among other things. Like I said, turmeric is, in fact, there was a viral infection that was going around. This was, I think, was either last year, I think the year before last. And it ended with, they called it the 2-week cough. You basically got this cough and you just couldn't get rid of it for like 2 weeks. But I actually got sick and I had this cough. And I thought about, I was looking through my books and it said turmeric. I'm like, So I mixed some turmeric and honey and it completely killed the cough. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And so yes, so it's good for coughs. It's good for respiratory challenges. It's good for expelling phlegm and mucus from the lungs. I mean, so as well as the inflammation component of it. So yeah, there's a lot of spices. There's a lot of herbs that are excellent, for restoration of health.
Hey, Mark, did you have that like hot when you actually put it together, or was it?
Say that again?
When you actually had the turmeric with the honey, was that hot?
Now, sometimes I warmed it up. Other times I just mixed it in. At room temperature. It
Room
was,
temperature. Okay.
yeah. I just put it in a little bowl. Put it, it took about I think a teaspoon, a couple of teaspoons of it. Put it in, and then
Awesome.
reconstituted it in honey, and I just
Yeah.
took it that way. Yeah.
Let's go. Everybody, you already know we get, the hour is almost over, man. Mark, I tell you, we're at the 45-minute mark.
Yes.
Mark. You know what I mean? So I'm like, hey, it's just it's meant to be to go this fast, but sometimes it's not meant to be because it's not on our side, man. So we're gonna take a quick commercial break, Mark, and we will be back. All right, everybody?
All right. I'm
We'll be
here.
back shortly. Here we go.
Thank you.
Feeling sluggish? Struggling with stubborn weight and visceral fat? It's time to reset with Fupa Water. Packed with powerhouse ingredients like spirulina, turmeric, and aloe vera, Fupa Water is your daily detox and hydration boost all in one. Flush out toxins, energize your body, and say goodbye to that stubborn belly fat. Ready to feel lighter and stronger? Get yours today at fupawater.com. And for a limited time, use code RNSS for the Rico No Suave show and get an additional 10% off.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My man, Mark Brezzell. I hope you guys are enjoying yourself. Hey, Mark, are you having a good time?
I'm loving it. I love it. This is a lot. This is not just information. It's a way of life.
Yes, sir. I love this, man. I love talking about stuff that's deep like this, but also educational for the audience and for people to be aware of that's not aware of this, right? And also to be able to ask those questions. I love the interaction as well. So we appreciate that. John T. for free, he said, for real, especially if he gets some health advice puppets, it will be a hit show. He's talking about John T. for free is saying that you should have your own show. Like your own show in regards to health and education. But if you actually had puppets, dude, you funny. He said if you had puppets, I'm telling you, you might be able to have a totally unique health show. That's a good idea. Hey, if you have something like that, make sure you invite me on the show. Yeah.
Ironically, I used to be a puppeteer when I was
way.
16, 17 years old. There was a ministry called Go Tell Ministries. They used to go and do shows with a more of a parochial, kind of like a VeggieTale type of things, and and we used to do puppets and stuff like that. It's pretty cool,
dude. That's why I love this show. Because we be asking questions that people that we don't even know about your life, and you come up and say, yeah, I did that too. I love that. Great job. Great job. All right, everybody, all right, you ready, Mark? This is something that you sent me in your earlier years.
Uh-oh.
And this is called
Don't do it.
Flashback Photo. Yes, sir. We're going to keep this photo there. This is a flashback. Mark, I want you to tell us.
I was 4.5, 5 years old.
How old were you?
About 4, 5, something like that.
5 years old.
I think I was 4.
Goodness.
Here.
What do you remember at that time when this photo was taken?
No. You know what? I remember the class. I remember this was a Saturday church. This was I was in church and I was giving offering. And we were all so I do remember that. Kinda. I don't remember them taking a picture of me, but I do remember the activities back in the day. I go back to when I was pretty young on things that I can remember, but that's about my threshold.
That's all right. That's all right. If you had one thing to tell the 4-year-old to watch out for when growing up, what would you tell them?
Oh my goodness. I would definitely tell them to be active, stay active, and pay attention, because the thing about, as when I talk to other young people, the decisions you make in your youth, sometimes you chasing the results, the repercussions of that, and for the rest of your life. So I try to help people understand that the setup definitely sets you up for a setback.
Yes, sir.
If you are not on top of your game. And so many, I look at the young people now that, they're taking, they vaping and all of the different things that they're doing now is cool. It's something to do, binge drinking, all of these things that's cool in college. but they don't realize that, that they are setting themselves up to fail down the road.
Yeah.
So, you got to be careful.
Yeah. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
All right, Mark. So down to our last 10 minutes of fame around here. 10 minutes of fame, but we got a couple of the subjects that I want to see if we can get through. When we talk about, executive health and high performance culture, why many executives and high achievers unintentionally take their health for granted in pursuit of productivity. We kind of talked about that when it came to stress, right? In regards to being an entrepreneur. And the mindset and also kind of being like self-destructive as well. How do you talk to executives and let them know as a public speaker how to change that mindset to be able to have time for themselves so they won't hurt themselves during productivity?
I was talking with actually he's an endocrinologist, as a matter of fact, today, and I think the challenge is that when you're in your zone, everything else really doesn't matter. You're just basically trying to get it done. And I think the problem with most of the executives today, and most of the, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're starting a business, whatever, is that you have to keep we talked to, like I said before, they keep their foot on the pedal and they're going full speed ahead. And because that's where they have to do what they have to do. But you have to kind of convince them that anything that you do, like I said, whether it's a car, the engine will overheat. Even if you're biking, I mean, you put undue stress on anything at excess, at excess. Right. So I tell people all the time, I tell them, listen, you got to rest. You got to put it in, you got to coast. Yeah. You got to back it down from time to time, because, if you don't, and the whole maintenance, I think about a machine, the airplanes are designed to basically be utilized. So the more they fly, the more efficient they are, but they still have to take them and they still have to inspect them. They still have to take it out of circulation to make sure everything is still running according to what it's supposed to be doing. So nobody is immune to breakdown.
That's right.
And the problem is if you don't slow down and you start to now have symptoms because of damage, now you're already behind the 8 ball, because now it's no longer about prevention, it's all about intervention. And intervention is not exactly, I mean, it's good that we have intervention, but what's the saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Mm-hmm. I think when we talk about the intention of how we're trying to stay so productive and we forget about things, the science behind it, which goes, it kind of flows into the last subject of the cost of science around health. Right? When things are being ignored, things are being hidden, meaning that we don't see it because it's not in our face, because we don't pay attention to our health. And also, you kind of mentioned a little bit of, how breaking that silence can transform individual lives and organizational culture. I think that's such a big thing when we talk about science and we talk about things that's actually hitting, because we sometimes follow the pack, or sometimes you talked about videos as well too that kind of helps you with stress. But there's also those stress where entrepreneurs, we listen to go-getters. We're go-getters. Never stop going. Keep pushing. Keep going. It feels like good stress at that time, but that's that hidden culture that we're like, listen, I only have that one focus. How do you define that in regards to being able to transfer and say, hey, you got to flip that around and say there's only a certain time of the day to be able to have that, so you're able to sleep at night?
The biggest challenge that I see in it, and when you talk with these guys, is the feeling that if you slow down, you get left behind. Right. But what they don't bother to tell you is that if you don't slow down and you start to manifest, challenges, symptoms, conditions, whatever, now you're talking about being set. And if you become hospitalized, you become, injured as a result of the push. Where does that set you in your algorithm?
Right.
Where does that put you? In that quest for efficiency. Right. So I think that you have to put, when I talk to you, have to put it in terms that are practical. Like I tell people all the time, even with a car, if you bought a Lamborghini, you bought a Ferrari, or you bought a Bugatti, you take great care to make sure that everything aligns is up, spec wise with the recommendations. You don't take it down to Bubba's gas station, and just put regular in there. Not a $500,000 car. You're not gonna put Bubba gas in there.
Put me on 87, even though I paid $100,000 for this car.
That's right.
Put 87 in there.
That's right. And in the 87 with 15, 20% alcohol in the water or whatever. The point is that we all, you have to take the foot off the pedal.
Yes, sir.
If you want to remain productive. And that's the same way with employees, with businesses. You have to, if you don't have a process in place where your employees have downtime, time to recuperate, time to recover, time to have recreation, time to, just relax their minds, reduces the bottom line, because the more you can't, availability is productivity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And if people are out, and not only is availability productivity, but also when you're talking about from a financial component, as if your body's continually breaking down because of the stress, because of never taking time off and breaks and that sort of thing, now you are subjecting yourself to the healthcare delivery system that we all see around here needs some help. Mm-hmm. And so now you're relying on these sorts of things, and that's money. When you go into the doctor, when if you need therapy, or if you on X amount of medications, and all this is extra expenditures that can be minimized by just simple preventive actions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's one thing that I always tell you when it comes to good stress.
Yes.
It's when I give gifts out to people.
Oh, there you go.
And I got something for you. This is a gift to you. This is good stress right now. This is nice. Good stress right now.
I'll take it.
Yes, sir. I have a Rico No Suave shirt for you, sir. And one of the things that I commend you on, we call them gems of the world. So definitely a gem of the world, because the one thing is that, like I said, some people don't have that opportunity to understand, by being a physician or being in the medical field and seeing how things are transformed and things happen with the human body. And then when something happens to them, how do they react? How do they work to be able to say, how can I troubleshoot myself to make sure I know that my heart is still pumping right, that my legs are still working right, that my brain is still working right, and my blood is still flowing correctly, especially when you get diagnosed with diabetes, and knowing how to maintain and still being able to live that life that you need to be able to live, and then be able to go out to educate. Mark, this is the reason why I give you this shirt, is because you're educating people, you're educating my audience, but you're educating the world for them to be able to know, take it seriously, have fun taking it seriously. You don't have to be depressed while doing this. You can be happy with doing this and staying healthy. So, and also you're an author, right? As well as you being an author as well too. Where can they find out your book? Where can they buy your book at?
Amazon. You can just put my name in, or put Mark Brezzell, or put in A Matter of the Heart, my unexpected journey with diabetes. That will pop up. Or a Barnes & Noble online also is carrying it.
Awesome. Well, this shirt right now, this is you. This is for
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to the Rico No Suave Show family, baby. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, my man, we got to get out of here, but we got to put up your social media, because we want people to get in contact with you.
Please.
as well. So let's put up that first one. Oh, yeah, he's on TikTok. It's MDB Live Connects with an X, not a C. So make sure you go ahead and connects with him. All right, here's the next one. Same thing as far as on Instagram. Yes, make sure you go ahead and check him out on Instagram. Same name, right? Make sure you get that X there as well, too. Then we have Facebook. Yes, make sure you don't spam them. Yeah, don't be spamming them. You know what I mean? Just tell them, hey, I saw you on the Rico No Suave show. It's Mark D. Brezzell. Make sure you please go ahead and follow him and add him. And then, yeah, and I think that is all, man. I think that is all. So, Mark, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, my man. Thank you so much for being on the show. I hope you enjoyed yourself. And you know we got to do a part 2.
Yes, sir. We have to definitely do a part 2 because there's so much information. Like I said before, we talk health all the time, but the very fact that we're at the top of many of these negative, categories,
Yes, sir.
number one, heart disease, number one, with our women. I mean, the fact of the matter is there needs to be more education and more of an effort. We can do better than we are doing.
Yes.
And we have to break this cycle. And doesn't require an active God for that to occur. Just simple lifestyle
need to have something interactive too, like interactive with fruit. You know what I mean? And
yes,
no puppets. We ain't gonna do that for John.
But, we'll hold off on the puppets. But I encourage you, if you have organizations, and you're looking for a speaker to come in and talk about health, whether it's to your workers, to employee health, or if you're part of a nonprofit or you're part of a group that has community health initiatives, I'm available for all of that because this is my love. And I just like to be very real with people, and I want people to know that we don't have to go out like that.
That's right. That's right. Mark, well, thank you so much, my man. Thank you for being on the show, man. And yes, we will see you on the next time. Everybody,
yes,
put
sir.
your hands together for Mark Brezzell. See you later, my man. All right, everybody, we got to get out of here. Your boy Rico No Suave, my man Mark Brezzell. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. You know, the hour goes by fast when you're having fun around here. We got to show you our social media, everybody, because our social media is important too. It's our website. Let's put up that website at www.riconosuaveshow.com. Make sure you please go ahead and check us out there. Here's the next one. Ba-boom. It is Facebook. Yes, Rico No Suave Show. Make sure you go and like and love everything that we're doing around here, everybody. All right, here's the next one. Instagram. Rico No Suave Show. Go ahead and follow us there if you haven't done so. And then this one is another one. This another one is special as well, too. It is YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, everybody. Please make sure you go ahead and help us build. Last but not least, it does turn into a podcast where it turns to audio. It's on mixcloud.com/Rico No Suave Show. Everybody, we got to get out of here. But, hey, we got more fun guests coming for you as always. But thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next time as we end off the show just like this.